All right, everyone, welcome to this daily sidereal forecast. This is for Wednesday, February 22nd, 2017. So today is a sort of continuation of yesterday. Yesterday we talked about how Mars is squaring up to Pluto. That's still going on today. The Sun going over the South Node, that's also going on. And the Moon is still in Sagittarius. So, first of all, in terms of how we're feeling, definitely open-minded, I feel like, with the Moon here. It is really good for a bit of that adventurous spirit, a bit of that free-spirited energy, in fact. And as long as we're seeing things from that top-down perspective, it can be very emotionally rooting. We can feel emotionally secure with that. Now, along with that, though, there is a lot of challenging things going on. The Mars squaring up to Pluto, for example, is really testing our ability to let go. Our ability for our egos to let go and detach. And it can be very deep with Mars, very instinctual. It's that survival mechanism there. The Sun over the South Node is releasing a lot of past attachments in the sense of the yearnings that we want, or the security blankets. Is a really good way of looking at the South Node. The things we hold on to, we feel comfortable with. And these are I'm talking emotional patterns and perspectives that we may know are unhealthy, but we're still holding on tight to them. So certainly a day of letting those go if you're guided to, if it's something you feel like is no longer serving you, letting go of those security blankets. And with the Mars square Pluto, maybe facing some fears of loss or not having control or identification with the things we want in life. All right, so let's go ahead and look at this in more detail when we return. All right, so first looking at the placements, the Moon in Sagittarius. Again, it's nice to actually have the Moon in this placement in the sky, meaning that although there is a lot of, again, this transformational energy going on, our emotions are feeling quite expansive. And even for some of us too, quite buoyant and optimistic, which is good. Maybe it's hopeful. Maybe it's seeing the big picture, or we're able to see beyond just the immediate sphere of things. So anything that does require a bit of open-mindedness, adventurousness, free-spiritedness, maybe it's going for a walk or reading some philosophy or something like that, can be very beneficial for our emotions when the Moon is in Sag. Of course, the Sun still is in Aquarius, and that's where the conjunction with the South Node is going to be, or is, and was yesterday. And this is about that. With Aquarius specifically, the free-spirited side of ourself, that is about our individuality, right? It's a great time to be essentially expressing who we are, accessing a bit of that progressiveness, right? And could even be quite idealistic. But these, again, might be some things that, some old ideas of self, some past ideas of self, of who we are, of what we're about, are being let go collectively with this conjunction, which we'll talk more about. So let's go ahead and look at what I feel like is the strongest energy today, Mars squaring up to Pluto. This is very much like yesterday. I covered this already in great length. And if you do want more specific information for your sign, do watch the weekly, where I go into very specific detail for your signs. But anyways, today it does go exact. I feel like it will be strongest today relative to yesterday. And especially because the Moon is going to be going over Pluto. So you got the Moon over Pluto, who's then going to square up to Mars, and then also square up to Uranus and Jupiter a bit later. So we've got this T-square going on that activates it and really drags it on for the rest of the day. Now, unlike yesterday, we don't have that Mercury trine Jupiter and open-mindedness and all of that, or whatever that was, a bit of buoyancy or thinking big, something like that, possibilities and potentials. But, that's waning, so it's important to see that what we've got here is a lot of red aspects. So very important for us individually and collectively to sort of challenge ourselves here today. And I feel like the best way to do that with Mars square Pluto in particular is, again, to detach from any of what can be a very instinctual, very survival-driven need. And it can certainly seem like something important, perhaps. Or if it's in your external environment, something that we need to do or control, or it could even be power struggles or something like that if it's in relationships because our needs are so strong. So essentially what we want to do with this aspect is get on the side of Pluto with it. And Pluto's job, so to speak, is to strip away all the attachments, to strip away all the fears, essentially, right? Because the attachments come from fears. So diving deep, seeing if we have any fears today that we can face, that's the essence of it. Everything else is just sort of a symptom or a result or a manifestation of the fundamental fear there. And again, it can be the fear of survival, of living. It can be very strong. But all of us will be experiencing this differently, some more intense than others. But I think generally and collectively, very good to face those fears, accept things, and as best as we can, detach from anything that we might feel like we need or need to control. And again, it could seem very important in our lives. So that's a great way of working with it. Another great way of working with this, as I've been saying, is to face fears, to maybe make some changes in your life. And that really goes hand in hand with the sun over the south node, suggesting that this is a week of change. We got a solar eclipse at the end of the week on Sunday, and this is very much a prelude to that. So this whole week and even into next week, collectively, we're letting go of a lot of, again, these security blankets, these yearnings, these things that in the past or in past life, we've held on to, we've needed, we've had so much experience with that now we've built a sense of comfort with it. So it's about letting them go, because chances are there's something here collectively that might be unhealthy, right? Individually, I think most importantly, is there something in your life that you feel like is an unhealthy pattern, is an unhealthy attachment, something like that, an unhealthy perspective perhaps? These are the sort of questions that I think are really good to ask ourselves, because it's through that awareness, which the sun is certainly bringing with the south node. You know, again, the sun is shining that conscious light right over the south node's past, our past, and these patterns. And so we have the insight, and then I think the next step is just understanding that things are moving away from that, moving into a brand new direction. And of course, the brand new direction is Leo. You know, collectively, we've had that north node in Leo, which is saying that, you know, this is about our self-expression. This whole year, last year and this year, is about learning about what excites us, what gives us passion, what sparks that inner flame, right? And although there's no specific aspects with that, in order to continue to cultivate that life path, whatever it is specifically for us, it is saying that this week and next, there is some things we can change, some patterns we can break, some things we can let go of, so we can bring more health and balance back to our life, to our individuality, and to that self-expression. All right, so that is the day in a nutshell. Again, in the evening time, we do have the moon over Pluto, so emotionally, even though there is that expansive energy, there is a bit of clash, a bit of resistance, maybe intensity, disruption, something like that. Again, your personal chart will determine this, and most importantly, it's internal, right? So being more aware of the self, of the fears, of those attachments, stepping back as best as we can. Sometimes with Mars, especially with the moon square Mars, sometimes it is good to just sort of take a step back or a breath, you know, if we're guided to. Especially with the moon square Uranus, we can be feeling a bit disruptive in a sense of, anxious or wanting to break free or something like that. It can be quite high frequency or irritability with the square up to Uranus, and quite possibly even with that Jupiter. So again, challenging day, but as I always say in astrology, all aspects, especially the challenging ones, actually are for our personal growth and development. And essentially what's happening here, what will happen as a result, both individually and collectively, is we will be more detached. We will be less identified, less driven by, again, those needs and that instinctual nature of ours. Not that we're pushing it away, it's just not enslaving us, right? The fears, the instincts are not enslaving us. We are having that conscious self-mastery over making decisions instead of reacting to things, right? Conscious decision-making versus reaction. And that's a great way of working with today too, is to be as present as we can, to bring extra attention to the self. And as a result, again, that mastery, that peace that really comes as a result of that. And speaking of peace, again, Venus and Mars are in Pisces. So especially with Mars and Pisces, this is about finding the path of least resistance, or the path of our intuition, of our inner guidance, and flowing with where things are already flowing in our life. But to access that, we have to be present, right? And things like meditation and even rest or taking a step back can certainly help with that. All right, so that is the day in a nutshell. Again, challenging day collectively. How we work with this individually will determine this. And hopefully what I've said does give you some good food, at least food for thought, or actually action steps to work with this in the best possible way. All right, so I hope you guys have an awesome day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.